Hi folks, welcome back to another edition of 12-Step Insights. My name is Emmanuel John. I'm an experienced therapist with more than 30 years in the field of addiction and drug treatment. So I hope this is helpful to you. Today we'll be looking at the ninth step, make direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Take care of a little bit of business. There's a subscribe button down in this corner. If you're on YouTube, and up here there's just a website. It's a link to all the other videos in this series. This is the ninth in the series, so I hope you'll check them all out. Please like and share. I hope you find them beneficial. So today, the ninth step, make direct amends to such people wherever possible. I think it's important when we're looking at the ninth step, and all the steps really, to remember when Bill wrote them. But the ninth may be even more important because of the time that he wrote them. The words sometimes mean or meant different things than they might today. Today, when we think of direct and indirect, we often think of that mean face-to-face. Because we have so many ways of talking to someone indirectly. We have emails, we have texting, we have Zoom, we have all kinds of different aspects and ways we can communicate with one another. In the time that Bill wrote the step, the word direct had a little different meaning than we think of today. Direct meant that I'm being clear, that I'm not beating around the bush, that I'm telling you exactly what I mean when I say what I mean. It's not like I stole a CD from you and I say, I kind of took some things from you when we were friends a long time ago. No, it's I took your whatever Led Zeppelin CD from you when we were 20. That's a form of direct that we don't often think about today. It also means to the person, though. It means in person. There's something different that happens. Most of us know that just dealing with a lot of Zoom and stuff meetings lately, Skype and things like that, online, not face-to-face, that it's a different feeling than when you're in the room with someone. And Bill couldn't even conceive of the possibilities of doing it. He probably would have approved, but that's not necessarily what he meant at the time. So make direct amends to such people wherever possible. We also have I think dictionaries are really important in early recovery for people, but it's good to know exactly what the words meant. Bill was very choosy about his words, and he knew that alcoholics and drug addicts at the time, alcoholics, he knew that they would misinterpret the words if given a chance. And so he really picked them carefully. Dictionaries help because they bring us back to what was meant and what the intent was. So made direct amends. We have direct, now we have amends. What does amend mean? Amend does not say I'm sorry. That is not what it means at all. Amend means basically to set right, to put something back to its original condition. If I took a CD, a Led Zeppelin CD from someone, and I'm going back to make amends for it, it might help to have that in my hand when I see them. They may already have it, but I'm at least restoring them if they don't. Next thing it goes on to talk about is such people. Who are such people? Obviously, he's referring back to the eighth step. Eighth and ninth are probably more important to be done together than the fourth and the fifth. People put the fourth and the fifth together all the time, but really the eighth and the ninth are actually joined together by the list, and then such people referring back to the list of people that we had harmed and that we're now willing to make amends to. Wherever possible is basically saying if you're walking down the street and you see the person and you get a chance to say it to them, don't put it off, don't wait. See if they're available to speak for a moment, and then try to do it then. Obviously, if they're stressed out or not looking like they're happy or sad or in a weird mood, you wouldn't want to do it. So, as such people wherever possible. Meaning like it doesn't matter if it's on the street or in a house or in a restaurant or whatever. It's to get it done. And I think part of the reason why he did that or said that was so that we don't lose the opportunity. We never know when we're ever going to see a person again. They could move out of state, move across the country. They could die, obviously, and we never have a chance. So to get it done, I think it's important to remember that Bill didn't write the ninth step for those other people. We're not fixing their lives by saying we're sorry. We are fixing ourselves by saying we're sorry. We are looking at ourselves and taking, as in the other steps, a full inventory, stock and trade of who we are. And we're coming to grips with who maybe we were. And so you want to go about this step in a way to get as much out of it as you can. And the way to get as much out of it as you can is obviously to make amends to as many of those people as possible. Direct amends isn't always possible for someone who has passed on, but there are ways to do that. There are prayer, there's meditation, there's writing letters. Some people write those letters. They'll visit a grave or a place that was important to the person. They'll read the letter out loud to God and to the person, and then they'll light it on fire, put it in smoke, or they'll put it in an envelope with no return address and send it off in the mail to that person. And someone will read it, whoever, doesn't matter, because our information is probably not on the letter other than our name. Sometimes it might be a family member, but that's when we get into this other idea, this other part of the step, which basically says accept when you do so would injure them or others. So accept. There are some times when we don't. I was working with a sponsee many years ago, and he was working with a guy, and that guy had about 10 years. That guy had done most of his steps and felt pretty good about him. He had a new family. He got married when he was about 2 years sober. He had a couple kids that were like 5 and 7. He had a family. They were going good. He was supporting his family. He decided one day that he was going to do a nice part of his 9 step without discussing it with someone. So he went, and so that's an important thing, to discuss our steps with someone before we do it. But he went to a Korean grocery store that he had robbed 10 plus years earlier with a gun. And he went into the store and he said to the guy, same guy was there. I robbed you back in such and such a time. And I'm here to, pay you back what I owed you. He had I think it was $700 or something at the time. I have your money. And the guy pulled a gun on him and held him there until the cops came. The guy was arrested and charged. There wasn't a statute of limitations for it because it was armed robbery. So this guy went to jail. He got sentenced to time in jail. Well, when he went to jail, which he maybe deserved, his wife and his kids were left without support. And they went through some hell. They lost their apartment. They had to move in with their parents for a while because they had no one to support them while he was doing time in jail. Now, did that do anybody any good? Did that do him any good? You have a hard time convincing me that you didn't harm someone else during that. So maybe accept when to do so would injure them or others means we're here for us. We're here for us to work the step. Except when to do so would injure them or others. That means you cannot put yourself before everything else, before anybody else. Our goal is to restore things as best we can back to their whole. So could he have also just sent the money? I robbed you once. I'm sorry. Anonymous? Does the guy really need to see his face? That's when you get in with a sponsor or someone else in the program or a spiritual guide, and you talk about the aspects of the step and saying you're sorry. The more people you tell the story to, the more you're going to gain from it. So it isn't just telling it to that one person, but we have to be careful. So please discuss these things with your sponsor, with someone else, with some old timers in your group before you go and do this, and with friends, and let somebody know you're going to do it, and make sure that it's a wise and safe thing to do before you injure someone else. Another popular 9-step thing back in the 30 years ago, I can remember, plus 30 years plus, is that men had this thing about making amends to their ex-wives that they fooled around on. And the ex-wives were clueless about some of the affairs and stuff. But these men felt like, they have to go make amends because they did these wrongs. And they'd go back and tell these women. Well, it didn't do anything but hurt these women. Most of these women had moved on, had new husbands, new families, new everything. And here this guy is, coming out of nowhere saying, oh, yeah, remember, I liked you even less, or I was even worse than you thought. So I did this stuff to you. So, yep, sorry, bye. No, they don't deserve it. They don't deserve to be hurt. Some people use 9 steps as a wrong excuse to contact someone, being an ex, that they kind of wish to rekindle something with. So, again, discuss it with someone else and make sure that your motive for doing it is pure. It's not always easy, and it can't be done in your first 30, 90, 6 months of sobriety. I don't believe it. I think that true 9 steps happen somewhere after a year and a half, almost 2 years, even later. One, because you can't always find everybody, and sometimes you're just not ready, really willing to make that amends. And for some people, you have to save money. Back in the 1980s, it was very popular for a sponsor to have someone put on a payment plan where they would be sending money to someone they harmed every week. And they didn't go say they were sorry until they paid off the full amount. And then they went and said they were sorry. Sometimes, if they had stole $2,000 from a store that didn't exist anymore, or a person that had died, they'd have them pay $2,000 to charity. I knew one guy would pay $26,000 towards a charity because of someone that he owed that money to. That's what his sponsor told him he had to do if he wanted to get things right, to amend it. and he made those contributions in the person's name that he had harmed. Some people use their 4-step list, but technically you should be making the same list in the 8th step. A lot of people use their 4th step to do their 8-step list. Any way you look at it, you're going to be using the list. The 8th step also has the addition to the list of some people who weren't necessarily resentments and some of the other stuff that we might have in the 4th step. Just people we just did blatantly wrong. So it's important to use all the data we can to make these lists, but also to make these amends. Most of all, it's important to remember that the 9th step is a part of our healing process. Do other people benefit from us doing that process? They should if we owe them money. They're not really benefiting, but they're getting even with what was owed to them or restored from what was taken from them. So it is about us, but it's also about understanding the damage that our actions may do. Obviously, if someone's seriously inebriated, a guy driving a car drunk and wounds somebody, runs into them. It's not just you went to court and you got found guilty, so the amends is over. Maybe you still owe that person something. I got hit by a drunk driver in an accident, and I still have lost some of the function in my hand. I have a lot of pain in my hand and disability as a result of that person. Did he ever pay? He paid for the hospital bills after that happened, but he isn't paying for anything long term, and he's never come to me and said he was sorry. So does it help people? It helps some. Some people will be more disturbed by it, and some people will get angry at you. That happens too. That's one of the reasons why you should always let someone know that you're going to do your 9th step when you do, because sadly, people have gotten murdered for some of the things they have done. I don't say that to scare you. I say that because it's true, and it really could happen. Ultimately, this step was designed so that you can walk down the street and look anyone that you see in the eye and not feel ashamed and not feel bad about who you are. Not to have to cross the street, not to have to avoid them at a party or a wedding, to be able to go in and restore that relationship with Uncle whoever, who you had a physical fight with one time because you were intoxicated and he confronted you on it. Okay? So it is about having a happier, healthy life. These videos are not meant to tell you everything you need to know about the 9th step. It's just to give you some insights. That's why it's called Insights. So I hope it was helpful. I hope it given you some insights. It is by no means comprehensive. Read the books, the 12 and 12, 9th step stuff. Read the 9th step in the basic text and the big book, as well as the Al-Anon books. Go to step meetings. They're a very important part of working any step. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope that your recovery continues to improve your quality of life, and that you become a more happy and content person. All right? Take care of yourself. Thanks.